Okay. Hello, Bev. Hey, so Bruno's not here today, so it's just me. So I'm just making sure it's all set up, I guess. I gotta get it recording. So, okay, I think we're ready to go. So, see ya. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your time for everybody who's watching later on. And gratitude, of course, for the knowledge and the practice. Good. Left foot forward, hands on the dantian, back straight, and push forward, and push back. Push forward, then push back. So whenever we do this, it's to remind ourselves to pay attention to the lower body, to the weight, the transference of the weight from one foot to the other. The idea of the torso, the skeletal structure of the hips to the head, moving in unison, so there's no lag like this, no big lag anyway, but just back and forth on a level, like a level, like a train track, parallel to the ground. Now, if you really pay attention to your hips and the movement here, you can think of a back right corner and a front left corner. And that becomes the two maximums of the position. So the maximum forward, maximum backwards. And this is really important because those maximums are what's called balance points. This is as far back as I can go without either losing balance or stepping. This is as far forward as I can go without either losing balance or stepping. So this really matters. This is where this is your range of motion in your stance. You have to make sure you never let a movement pull you out of that range. And now you have one more dynamic to work with just with the lower body, which is to turn. So as I come back, I turn and I want my belly button to turn directly 90 degrees to the right, and my belly button becomes square to the front. And all of that's happening as I push forward to the front corner of my left hip and back to the back corner of my right hip. So there's a push and pull between each side of the hips. And that's only possible through controlling the muscles of the legs right down to the feet, right down to the toes. Every part of the lower body is engaged in this. Now, doing that, pay attention to your right shoulder. It gets thrown forward with the hip and then pulled back with the hip. So what you have is this lower body apparatus, your two legs, your hips, your knees, your ankles. And then you can use that to steer and control the movement of the upper body. So now the shoulder is engaged. Now, I said that there was two sides to my hips. There's two sides to my shoulders. And that means that the shoulders can connect left to left, and they do, but also left to right. So there's connectivity between the shoulder and the hip on the same side, and between the shoulder and hip on the opposite side. So try to pay attention to this idea. When I push forward, my right hip is pushing my right shoulder forward. But when I come back, my left hip is pushing my shoulder back, essentially. There's a relationship between each side of the hip to each the shoulder. That makes sense, hopefully. Now, all of those dynamics in mind, we're going to add another dynamic, another layer of dynamic. And that is to go to the elbow on the right hand. I'm going to let my hand free of my body, and the elbow is going to come forward, back, forward, and back. Now, I'm going to be specific about this though. I'm going to come forward. I'm going to think of using my elbow as a strike here. When I come back, it's not going to go out this way. It's going to come straight down along the side of my ribs and then forward again. So it has to reach out to the center and then pull back quietly, kind of, not in a big motion. from the hips. So keep that connectivity in your mind from the shoulders and the hips and all of the lower body. So this is a good maximal range of the elbow. But then we're going to bring it up to the hand. The movement will change, so the hand can be more, sort of, you can utilize more of the hands dynamic rather than just the elbows. So come back, and now see on my hands here, I'm going to reach. And then I'm going to let my hand drop and push my palm to the outside, and then turn and come up and reach again. Now, notice that as I come back, my elbow is close to my ribs and it stays close to my ribs when my hand comes up. I'm not doing a big motion out like this, just here and here. And now this is a movement where if you're really doing it well, you're paying attention to it, your maximal reach of your right arm through your whole body and then back. So it's a stretch for all the muscles coordinate to a single point. You got to stay relaxed, let the shoulder turn freely, the elbow turn freely. And then we're going to speed this up a little bit. Get the blood moving a little more. Try to keep the movement relaxed and connected throughout the whole body. And then one more gear faster if you can, to the point that it feels like it's almost a little too fast, just to sort of hit that for a moment. And then slow it down a little bit. And we're going to do 3 very strong striking motions forward. So instead of pushing, we're going to hit. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Squeeze your stomach, squeeze your hand. And then back. Feet together. Breathe in. Breathe out. Push down. Round your toes, breathe in. And push up and out. Shake it. Right foot forward. Hands back to here. And then start with the basic. Forward and back. Forward and back. So remember, you want to keep the top of the back of the head rising, the hips sinking, so the spine is pulled to a long sort of stretch. And that's really important, that the spine is free to, there's no tension in the muscles around the spine if you can have it, because that tension inhibits the flow of the nervous energy in the spine. And the spine is, of course, the highway of information for the brain. So if your brain is sending signals to your body going through the spine as a highway to that, and there's a blockage in the spine, it inhibits the overall movement and a lot of things. So this movement helps keep the spine in balance, where it should be, where the muscles support it correctly. And you want to think of, again, of that top of the back of the head rises up, while the hips sink. And then speaking of the hips, remember the back point and the front point. The right front point, the left back point in this case. Maximum push, maximum retraction. Maximum push, maximum pull. And then that dynamic yields the potential of turning to the side and coming forward. Turning to the side and coming forward. By doing that, as I was talking about on the other side, right? It's one hip engaged and the other hips engaged. They're really engaged together to help each other. So as one pushes and one pulls, the other one assists essentially. And that dynamic between the two hips, pushing and pulling, allows you then to very strongly, I guess I could say, push the shoulder forward and pull the shoulder back so that you're conscious of the connection between the hip and the shoulder on one side and across the body, the diagonal connection and the direct connection in that sense. Now, if your shoulder is relaxed and you're moving from your feet, you can detach the left arm from the body and think of the elbow. So remember, the elbow is going to come forward and strike to the center and then just fall back. Basically, don't worry about your hand. You don't have a hand. You just have an arm that ends at the elbow. Now, the movement is going to turn into the movement with the hand. I'm going to come back, and then I reach with my hand forward, but then I steer to the outside, turn, elbow stays close, and then push again. So now I've extended the movement, changed the dynamic a little bit, but the hand is still connected to the feet. The hips are still connected to the shoulder. And now, relax, but speed it up a gear. Stay relaxed. And speed it up to the point that you are kind of lightly jogging. And then slow it down again. And then 3 strikes forward. Ready? 1. Squeeze your hand in your stomach. 2. Squeeze your hand in your stomach. Third one, hold it when you strike. 3. Hold it. Squeeze your hand in your stomach, stay focused forward. And then feet together. One more time. Breathe in. Breathe out. Around the hips and down. Around the toes and up. And open. Shake it off. Good. All right, let's have a stretch. Feet out. Point the toes to the corners. Sink down. Hands on the knees. And as we always do, just sort of wiggle side to side and let your hips relax. Feel the stretch settle into the center of the back of the hips. And then when you feel like the stretch is settled, you can point your feet more forward. Bring your elbows back down to your knees. And now sink low in the hips and push the knees out. Excuse me. Put your fingertips to the floor. Let your elbows sink down. Keep pushing your knees out. Let your head fall forward. Straighten your back. Turn to one side, elbow to the knee. Other side, elbow to the knee. Straighten your back. Turning to your left. Stretch to the left. Point your left foot straight to the left. You can even point your left toe slightly to the outside, but then push your weight onto your left foot. Your right foot way behind you, with the toes trying to point to the left, so that the hip opens along this angle here. Bring your elbow to your knee, lean in even more if you can. Put your hand down, heel up, runner stretch. Back knee down, push your weight forward against your left foot. Shift your weight back, point the toes in the air, stretch. Hands on the floor, point your feet forward again, straighten your back, turn to your right. Again, you can point the right toe straight to the right or even off to the side a little bit to the right side. But the most important thing is the weight pushes onto that foot. Well, this foot is turning that way. It can't quite turn all that way, but it allows the hip to open along the side here and underneath along the side. Push into the stretch. And then, if you can, lean in, bring your elbow to your knee. All your weight's pushing through your right foot now. Back down, heel up, runner stretch. With the back knee down, push your weight forward against your left. Shift your weight back, push your toes in the air, and stretch. Hands to the floor, your feet point forward, work them in. Straighten the back of your legs. Breathe in. Breathe out. And circle your hips. And the other way. Good. So, hands up and just open and back. Open and back. Try to think about extending through your fingertips when you open, and when you come back, just relax. Just relax and extend. 2 more. 1, 2. And then make sure that your ribs have been pulled up and back. And then drop the hands and circle slowly. Big circles back. Nice and slow, so you feel the movement throughout the whole joint. Shoulders need to have a full range of motion. And down, and now we're going to go the other way. So you're going to go back and up and stretch here, and then let the hands come forward and fall. Stretch, forward and fall. Stretch. 1 more. Stretch, forward and fall. Nice and slow. Breathe in, bring your hands above your head. and throw it all away. 1, 2, 3. And then reach up for the ceiling. Look up at your hands. Push in your mind through your fingertips, through the ceiling, into the sky. And then go on your tippy toes and extend. High as you can extend. Higher still if you can, higher still. And then bring your heels down, grab your elbow, twist from your feet as far around as you can. Drop your hands, twist the other way from the feet as far as you can around. Drop your hands, reach up again, look up again. Project through your fingertips, right through the ceiling into the sky, to the atmosphere, tippy toes, high as you can. Reach for the moon. And then heels down, and grab your elbow and pull it behind your head, opening the armpit totally. And then the other way, pull. Drop your hands. I do a Qigong class just before this class on Wednesdays. And I was talking to the Qigong class today about this, and I just pointed out these stretches here, 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 they are like a massage for the upper torso. What sits in the upper torso is your lungs and your heart. And both of those organs, well, those organ systems are miraculous. They're really, the more you learn about them, the more amazing they are. But if you think about a person who's chronically at a desk like this, that's a pressure falling in on the heart and the lungs. And so it's so important that you have a stretch like this to counteract that kind of motion, because both the heart and the lungs need expansive, need to be able to have expansive movements, right? The lungs need to expand with air, the heart needs to pump, and if it can constrain here, it constrains throughout the whole body. So anyway, these stretches are really, really, really good for that. So let's do the rest of the next stretch. So left hand, pull back. Push back. Into center, twist. Now, if you can feel the connection from all 3 joints, keep the connection and let your hand come away from the center a little bit. A slightly different stretch. We've done this one a lot before. Just point the fingers forward, like a tabletop, by the wrist right above the elbow, and press down. And then point the fingers off to the side. This is crane wings, and press down. And give it a shake. And then right hand, fingers down, pull back. Over, push back. Into center and twist. Again, if you can feel the connection between your wrist, elbow, and shoulder, pull the wrist away from the body, but keep the connection in those 3 joints. And the fingers forward, wrist above the elbow, press down. And then crane wing, press down. Shake it up. Hands on your hips, head side to side. Roll your chin one way, roll your chin the other way, again, and one more time, back and forth, 1, 2, look forward, down, up, and then down again, and 1, 2, 3, other way, 1, 2, 3. Okay, want to have a quick sip of water? Go ahead, I like to have one myself, so. Okay, so before we jump into the form, I think I want to carry that thought a little further about the importance of this stretching for the upper torso. In Chinese medicine, you would call this the upper jiao, middle jiao, lower jiao. And it's these groupings of the different organs through in your body, the upper being the heart and the lungs. Well, this is important. The heart is one of the most vulnerable points in the body, right? If you get an attack on the heart, it's quite lethal, potentially. So your body wants to protect it very strongly. The brain is wired to protect your heart very strongly. That's what the fetal position is. I'm going to protect my face, my head, and my heart. This has got to be protected from the attacks. And this is something that you see in life in general. Animals have a lot of behaviors that are connected to this. Okay, so if this is the most vulnerable point, as well as the head, so the head and the heart are kind of the two most vulnerable points, that would mean that, I'm going to take a step back. If you look at an animal, you look at a dog or a cat, because they're on all fours, that part of their body is actually quite protected by being close to the ground and having the back of the body kind of around it when they're moving around. So the front of their body is not vulnerable because they're on all fours. But because human beings stand up, the vulnerability becomes more available for attack in that sense. So there's a tendency you see with people that when they get attacked and they have no training is to do the fetal position thing, to pull in like this. So the instinct is to protect, but the problem is you're taking away all of your mobility and that includes your ability to engage in the situation. If you want to engage in the situation, you have to stand up on both feet and be open. Let your vulnerability be open at the attack, and then you can engage with it. But you can't do it like this. This is a really interesting part of the training because you can see it's connecting to the subconscious programming. You're overriding your instinct to pull away and protect yourself and saying, no, I'm gonna stand there and I'm going to face it and I'm going to engage directly, being open. And you see movements like this in the form. Well, that technique is only possible if you do this and think of that opening concept. It's just a part of it. So let's do the third set today specifically. We're getting close to finishing the third set with this class, and then that's going to be fun. That's going to be a fun moment. So let's do that. I'm going to review the third set to where I believe we left off last time, or somewhere in there, and then we'll pick it up from where we are, okay? If I'm here, I've just carried the tiger to the mountain. And then catch a sparrow by the tail. Turn to the corner. And out. Now this sequence is always kick, block the punch, and reach in and expand through the chest, expand through the lungs. Block the kick, block the head, expand. And then again, block the kick, block the punch, and expand into spear position. Turn into horse riding stance, elbows out, sink. Turn to the corner, catch a sparrow by his tail. Single whip to the corner. Look to the side, block with your right hand, cross step with your right foot, push down with your right hand, step forward with your left foot, and position 1. Right foot back, turn, Position 2. 45 degrees to the corner. Position 3. And then right foot around 225 degrees back to where you started. Position 4. Left foot stepping to the left, right hand coming down, left hand coming up. Double block. Grab the thermos at the left knee, bring it across to the right knee. Bring it back to the left knee, take the right foot with you, and then push the right wrist forward, supporting with the left. 1, 2, knee up, roll back, push 3. From there, single whip to the corner. And then cloud hands. 1, 2, and 3. Exit cloud hands and single whip as always. And then we drop down. We bring our right foot in and out, and we drop low. Snake creeps down. Reach up. Protect your head. Stand up. Golden pheasant stands on one leg with the right hand, and then with the left hand. The left foot steps back. Right hand pushes forward, repulsing the monkey. 1 and 2. Turning to the back corner, and block a kick, block a punch, reach in, spear position. Grab with the arm, both hands up, down, hands high, hands fall. Turn to the front, clear, strike forward. Roll back, turn to the left, up, and strike. 1, cup air. 2, grab the back of the head, pull it down, strike. 3. Push down, up, sink, step out, circle. 1, 2, 3. Connect your ankles, up, protect yourself, push away. Clear to the side, hook punch, turn back to this side, pull the right hand down into chamber position, left hand out. Right hand out. Drop the right hand, make a fist, and sequence. Push, poke, punch. Hands come together, just like the second set. Push down, open, and then 1, 2, 3. Catch a sparrow by the tail. Single whip to the corner. And then the final cloud hands of the form. 1, 2, 3. Exit cloud hands into single whip. Now, I do remember going a little further, but so I'll do it now, and I'll come back and check from here. So I reach out with my right hand, not like the second set, but then as I shift back, I come to cat stance, and my left hand strikes out with the fingers. Then from here, I turn 180 degrees, I push down, and then I come up, big circle, around, pick up the foot, forward, up, brush the knee as it steps down, and then I have a thermos here, and then I'm going to do an uppercut as I step forward. I think that's as far as we go. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so let's have a review of that last little bit, and then I'll keep going forward. It's a bit noisy here outside. Oh yeah, here, the guy here for a second. Okay, so let's have a look at that uppercut first for a second, as a concept of striking, because striking is an interesting thing. A lot of people when they go into martial arts have no background in martial arts, assume striking's not really like that. It's just kind of like a simple thing, you just hit something, but it's not simple at all. It's a really, really skillful thing to be able to do correctly. Your body doesn't have a lot of places you can hit strongly with in general, and more importantly, the effectiveness of the strike is directly related to your ability to control on a very fundamental level your muscles and your breath and your intention and it's a hugely complex thing actually. Okay, so if I'm going to strike with an uppercut, what that means is that I'm striking upwards. There's an up motion. Okay, so sometimes we have that already in the form where we do this and we push up and away. It's up and away. Now, because of gravity, you can only push up so far before a person comes back down. And this means that there's a whole bunch of principles in Tai Chi of rising up before you fall back down. So, for instance, if I want to throw somebody who's bigger and stronger than me, I can't muscle it, right? I can't muscle it. I can't just overpower them with strength. First, I need to get them to come up off their feet, like we do the tippy toe stretch, and then to light, and then I can throw them down. And so this is a technique to bring someone up. And that's an important thing. You're going to bring them up on their tippy toes, on the balls of their feet, the front of their feet, and then even a 220-pound guy is light to be thrown because he's not putting his weight down. Okay, so having said that, let's look at the movement. I'll start here. I got my cat stance facing this way, my hands have just turned. I'm going to do the big circle, pick up my foot, focus on the kick, foot comes back, and now my foot falls, and as it falls, my right hand falls with it, and a little faster, so it brushes the knee, and then it comes down, and I put my heel forward like this. Now, I don't know, I guess. I'm showing my feet. So my heel goes this way. So the heel is here, and my hands are here. And then I put the weight forward, and then my left foot, my back foot, has to step and get underneath of my hands as I move up into the uppercut. So the foot has to be faster than the hands. That's really important. That step from here to here has to be very smooth. Okay, so I'm here. Actually, what we'll do is we'll do it from here. The foot's falling, and I brush the knee. I put the foot down. Now, my left foot has to lead the way. So I bring my weight to my front of my right foot, and then my left foot comes up to cat stance essentially. And from here, my left elbow and my left knee move out into position here. But you see how I put my foot under my hands for structure. That's the only way this is going to work, okay? So if I face the camera, actually I'll keep the camera angle out. If I face the camera, what's happening here is my left hand is coming up and across this way. Now this is no different than catching a sparrow by the tail with the right hand coming up here. It's that sneaking up underneath and clearing. So if whoever's watching later is embedding right now, you just like reach with your right hand forward towards the camera. I come up underneath it here. You see, up underneath it like this, and that pushes you up and back, right? And then this hand's coming up at the same time here, right? So you can see how it's lifting. It's going to push you up and back like that, okay? So let's do it again. Here, 1, left foot steps forward, lift up and back. Okay, so let's talk about placement of the hands for a moment. To go back to what I was talking about in Chinese medicine, the heart and its connection, I think you can think of it as the vagus nerve connection from the heart to the back of the head is the most protected part of the body instinctually. Your body will sacrifice an arm to protect this part of it. So what we're doing here, you can interpret this as I'm coming up underneath an arm, sure. And then I'm striking maybe a floating rib here, and then the person will lift this way, that's sure. But in maximal potential, what you're going to attack is under the chin with this hand. So the head comes back like this, and you're attacking through the throat to the back of the head, and the solar plexus here with this hand, aiming up and into the heart. So the strike is supposed to come up through the solar plexus into this area of the chest. And that's going to lift somebody like this. If I had somebody here I could work with, and I just moved like that with intention towards them, I wouldn't even have to touch them, and their instinct would be to pull away from it by lifting up and back. So when you actually add the strike, they come way up and back. So there's a technique here that I'll show you this way. I guess I'll use this. That'll work. Or if I had a sword and I went up to do the uppercut, right? This is the uppercut. I draw the uppercut up, I'm cutting up, and then I quickly follow it back down. So it goes 1, 2, up, and then down. See how it's a wave that follows down. So doing this technique, so try to do this with me. We're here, I step and I bring a person up, and then this is, sorry, let me say this clearly, this is an application, this is not really part of the form, I'm just giving you guys a technique to think about, is I bring them up, and then I turn my hands, and then I bring them down, and I step again. Okay, so it goes up and down. Yeah, and it's definitely, you can think of holding a weapon and coming up and down, up and down. Okay, now, one more thing, we'll practice it a couple times. So I'm hitting under the chin, I'm hitting up the solar plexus into the heart. The person comes up like this. Then I'm here, I'm grabbing underneath their arm and the side of their head. Here and underneath the arm, pulling down so they land right on their back this way. Okay, that kind of makes sense, at least bad, yeah. Okay, so from here, 1, 2. Yeah, follow the wave, follow it up, follow it down. Yeah, everybody who's watching about an hour later, just do it about 3 or 4 times. Good, okay. So that's just that's a side trip. That's like we're going on a path and we just took a little side path for a moment because I wanted to talk about the idea of the wave function here. The idea of rising up, getting the person to rise up and taking that moment when their body's light and then pulling them back down. It's a very important principle. I've said this before to this class, but it just remind everybody that there's not a lot of great Tai Chi application videos online. There's some, but they're not a lot. But there is quite a bit of pretty good Aikido demonstrations online. Aikido does a lot of the same principles we work with, and they definitely have this kind of technique where you see them bringing a person up and then bringing them down. You can definitely see that. So if you want to look for that, go ahead. That's definitely interesting. Now let's do what the form actually does. So I'm here, and I come up for the uppercut and the strike here. Now I have lifted the person up and back. That is very important. Now what I'm going to do is, if you think about what we just did, is you would turn the hands, right, and then drive down. Well, I'm going to turn the hands, but I'm not going to drive down. I'm going to go over to the right corner and do another uppercut to the right corner. Okay, so what matters here though is the first uppercut, the left hand on top is open. The second uppercut, both hands are closed. So I'm hitting out with this part of my hand here on top, and I'm doing an uppercut with my left hand underneath. Okay, so if I face this way, I go 1, 2. Okay, now, this is a point in the form where I'm going to bring up something that will be part of the training from here on out, which is that there is some minor variations that you can practice in the form in some of the moves. In this case, my teacher has taught me that you can do this with 2 hands closed, 2 hands open, 1 hand closed, 1 hand open. So those are variations of possibility. It's not changing the technique in any real fundamental way. It's just that your hands can do slightly different positioning with the same overall movement. My teacher actually likes to say snap-on tools. So from the wrist forward, whatever hand position, it's incidental to that. The dynamic of the rest of the body is what matters. Anyway, so what we're going to do though is practice with two hands closed here to get the feel of striking with this part of the hand as a strike and this uppercut at the same time here. Because one more applicational idea, self-defense idea for this. If a person is being threatening or they're leading towards violence in that way, one of the great advantages a person generally has is that that person usually doesn't expect the person that they're picking on to have any skills to defend themselves. That means that there's a gap in the reaction time because of that. So you get that opportunity to use that advantage once. Once you've shown the person that you can defend yourself, then they switch modes and they're going to be a lot more careful. So anyways, this is really useful. So I just hit the nose and I hit the solar plexus at the same time out of nowhere. Bam! Right? So bam, and then I can try, and the person will be shocked and they'll be hit back and their nose might start bleeding and they'll probably not want to deal with it anymore. It's a good skill in just that isolated thought of it. Now, what we're actually doing in the form though, is I'm coming up this way. And now, again, I said the person comes up and back. Now, if the person comes up and back, their arms tend to fall away from them to keep their balance. There's an expansiveness, right? They don't fall like this, they fall like this. So if I hit this person up and back here, their hands come out somewhat. I'm going to take my left hand, I'm going to wrap it around the right hand and come up underneath the right arm here. And then this becomes a strike into the armpit underneath the right arm, the left hand. Okay, so because you're the person that's here today, if you can just reach out with your right hand, that's simple enough. Reach out with your right hand. Oh, you froze up. You're frozen, I see you in one spot. It's lasting for a while. Oh, there you are, okay.
Can you hear me?
I got you now, Okay.
Yeah,
So
I think, yeah, yes.
Yeah.
I think my computer is on mirror, so yeah, this is my right hand. Even though it might look like the left to you, can't.
I got it, we're good, no problem. So yeah, that's great though. So if you extend your right hand forward and everyone else watching later at home, you think about that. So I'm coming up underneath here. So this is gonna knock your arm out of the way somewhat. And I'm hitting solar plexus here. So you're being risen up and back this way. Then this arm comes around and strikes the armpit underneath the right arm now. So the right arm is trapped here in my armpit this way, okay? And as I do that, I'm hitting into the face with this hand. Okay, does that kind of make sense? Good. So this one, this is interesting because it's like not only going to raise them up here, you're going to take that moment and then you're going to lock them and raise them up again, and then you're going to do a throw. So now it's all setting up to that dropping back down thing I was doing. Okay. So if you do the uppercut again, the first one, the left foot coming forward here, you push them up and back. In their up and back position, you wrap around the right arm. And then you lock underneath the right arm and strike the face and the armpit with this one. And then you reach up and grab their head. And just like catching a sparrow by the tail, turn it and bring it down to your left hip. And that's going to throw them down. So they're going to go 1, 2, and then their head gets pulled and they get thrown like that. Yeah, and it's the wave comes up, the wave turns, and it comes up again, and then it falls back down. Okay, so how are we doing for time actually? Oh yeah, we're coming up to the end of class. So that's it, won't go any further than that, but let's do that again. So from here, up, now turn, up, striking, reaching and grabbing their head, pulling it down to your left hip. Okay, now I don't have time to get into detail, we'll do this next week, but what this is actually doing is it's the beginning of Catch a Sparrow by the Tail. It's just that you're going to do it in a way where there's some stepping that hasn't been there before, and so I want to go through that in detail. But I'll show it. I'll show you guys it real quick, and then we'll kind of finish with that. So if we do it again, we go here. We go uppercut 1, uppercut 2, grab the head, pull it down. Now that's like catching sparrow by the tail, right? I come down to my hip, but then I'm going to turn from the corner to the side, and I'm going to step forward 1, 2, 3 as I do the rest of that movement. And as I said, this will take a little time, but all you're doing is adding some stepping into this basic catch a sparrow by the tail movement, okay? But yeah, let's not get too much more new information in the last like 3 minutes of class. Let's do this. Here, this is the end of the third last cloud hands. Reach out, come back, turn, pushing down. Big circle. Pick up your foot, kick away, bring the foot back up, palms are to the ceiling. As the foot falls, brush the knee, create the thermos, and then you step forward with your left and uppercut number 1. And then you turn to the corner, uppercut number 2. And then just bring your hands down to your left hip for now is good. You see that as throw the person back down. Okay, one more time. 1, back, turn, up, up, and out, up, brush, come up underneath, and then to the corner. And then the final throw that we're just going to add in before we start the next. And because the form likes to do things in 3s, one more time to do 3 times of that, and then that'll be good for today. So go ahead. Okay. Now, I mean, if you have any questions, Bev, as you're here, I'd be happy to deal with that.
No, I think it's good. Thanks.
Cool. If anybody listening later on has questions, I know Bruno said this before, but I just want to reiterate, happy to take them. You can send us emails or whatever works. Let me complete this line of thinking before we finish then. So we have this idea that it's really important to allow the heart and the lungs to have the expansiveness of the upper chest for the blood and the oxygenation. In self-defense, this is important because if you close this way, you lose mobility. Your ability to move smoothly and quickly and well with your whole body relies on you being open and allowing the most vulnerable part of your body, or I would say one, but really the most vulnerable, because it's the life and death space, to be open. And this makes martial arts fascinating because it's not just how to defend yourself in terms of the limited scope of like just human violence, but it's actually how to train yourself to engage in the world and not be shut down by what you encounter, but to be able to stay open to it. And now that's frightening in a way, because vulnerability is something that your brain knows is dangerous, and so there's a tendency to want to pull back from that. But one of the things that I think is super fascinating is that in every culture's belief systems, and especially in Japanese and Chinese that relate to this, like Taoism, Zen Buddhism, it's well understood or well developed, at least in the framework, that a clear mind does not allow in any evil, whatever that might be, whatever the negativity is blocked by the clearness of the mind. And that clearness is required, you have to be open to it. So it might seem intimidating to think, oh, I'm going to stand here and have a feeling of openness against an attacker who's seriously trying to attack me. Of course, that makes sense. But the promise is that if you can do that, the clarity of your mind in that state will give you an advantage that overcomes the attacker's greater strength even. It's a fascinating nexus of many ideas. So again, I'm open to questions. I'm happy to talk about it some more, but that was my thought for the day. Okay. Thank you very much for your time, everybody. Have a great week ahead. See you guys. Bye.